Your question is essentially why that general education teacher needs to have an understanding about the disability. So you're asking, how does someone tell the difference between a true mental illness? Both ODD and ADHD are developmental disabilities, not necessarily would call it a mental illness. And a kid who's just doing it because he wants to get away with it. That's an excellent question if you don't have experience with these types of disabilities, and you end up being like the teacher in the Am I the A-hole thing that I read before. If you click on this thing and go back to it, and IEP services are determined by an extensive evaluation. So at some point for this kid, in order for this kid to get an IEP, a full team had to evaluate him to determine how these disabilities or suspected disabilities, if he didn't have a diagnosis, are affecting his learning at school. And by learning, I mean more than just academics. Learning about functioning, learning how to be in your chair, how to speak, take your turn speaking, those types of things. These are all parts of the functional and academic learning experience. And so if a child has an evaluation and it determines that they are impaired in those areas, he also, according to the Reddit post, also had a special ed teacher for reading and writing, then they would qualify for an IEP. And that's how we can determine that it is likely a disability that is causing these things, and services will help. I still have a problem that the kid does not have, or doesn't seem to have, behavioral services. And also, I want to correct myself. ODD actually is in the DSM. I kept thinking PDA for some reason. So a lot of people corrected me on that. So I stand corrected. But for the most part, the problem is when you have a teacher that looks at these disabilities kind of the way you described it. And I'm not coming for you. I'm just saying, I'm assuming you don't or don't have an extensive understanding of these, which is fine. But if a teacher doesn't understand how ADHD, ODD, autism, any of these other things manifest, and think that a child is just acting out to get away with it, then that teacher or anybody else, a parent, a father, a grandmother, or whatever, is going to treat the kid like any sort of discipline or anything is going to fix it, when in actuality is a disability. And so this is why it's really helpful for people to have a full understanding of these things before they're going to deal with it. And if you're a teacher, then yeah, you have a responsibility to get some understanding about the kids that you're dealing with, so that teacher doesn't, just say all of these things to this child. Now, granted, she was saying things that he likely was doing, because this kid also has a crisis plan, which is not something that they just give out. You get a crisis plan typically when you've had enough behaviors that warrant it. I just think she could have gone about it a different way. So hopefully that helps and answers your question.